Theosophical Talk, Take 4. Now, this is a talk I'm giving under the auspices of the Bolton Lodge of the Theosophical Society and the Northwestern Federation of the Theosophical Society. We know in these difficult times we can't meet as we usually do. Obviously, meeting in person is much more effective and much more potent than online, but it's just the way things have gone, unfortunately. And things will get back to normal. We always have hope that they will. So first I'm going to light the candle of harmony. Here we have the candle of harmony. And it represents the harmony within our hearts and the light within our hearts. Because in the Bhagavad Gita it says that the mind should be like a candle flame in a spot free from the wind. So we have this as a symbol, and also I've got it here, and it's a beautiful, lovely flame. So you can look at that flame if you don't want to look at my face, which is your option, of course. And so I'm going to light the candle of harmony. Then we'll have a nice little meditation for the 2 or 3 people who are going to watch this. Now you see how beautiful that flame is? Looks wonderful. Now we just have a little meditation. So I want you to breathe out any tension. Just breathe it out through the nose, if possible. The Secret of the Golden Flower talks about tuning the mind and the breath. If the mind is disturbed or turbulent, so is the breath. And if the breath is noisy and turbulent and out of rhythm, so is the mind. So you have to tune the two, make the breath silent and rhythmic, and the mind will be calmed, and vice versa, of course. So I'll just breathe out any tension and just relax. I'll ring the bell when the meditation is over. Just breathe out any tension. Thank you. So the Jain path to freedom. Probably every time I breathe, the candle flame is going to flicker. As I usually do in these type of talk, I first went to the Theosophical writings to see what Theosophy had to say about Jainism. It is a fairly difficult religion to gather information upon, and there is no real evidence to support the idea that like the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Muslims and the Christians, that there is an esoteric side to the religion. There most probably is, but perhaps the religion itself is mystical, as H.P. Blavatsky says in the Theosophical Glossary, under the heading Jainas. She says they are a large religious body in India, closely resembling Buddhism, but who preceded it by long centuries. They claim that Gautama the Buddha was a disciple of one of the Tirthankaras, or saints. more than likely this could be true. They deny the authority of the Vedas and the existence of any personal, supreme God, but believe in the eternity of matter, the periodicity of the universe, and the immortality of men's minds, which we call manas, as also that of animals. She says it's an extremely mystical sect. Extremely mystical. And on page 34 of the Caves and Jungles of Hindustan, also by H.P. Blavatsky, she writes that Jainism is much older than Buddhism, which began its rise about 543 to 477 BC. Jainas boast that Buddhism is nothing but a heresy of Jainism, as Gautama, the founder of Buddhism, had been a follower of one of their chief gurus or holy men. And in Isis Unveiled, volume 2, pages 322 to 3, she adds that it is clear that Gautama the Buddha, the son of the king of Kapilavastu, and the descendant of the first Sakya through his father, who was of the Kshatriya or warrior caste, did not invent his philosophy. Philanthropist by nature, his ideas were developed and matured while under the tuition of Tirthankara, the famous guru of the Jaina sect. So that's very interesting. It's something that I hadn't come across before I started to research for this talk. The name Jainism derives from the general term Jina, which applies to these Tirthankaras, and refers to a person who has conquered their lower nature and achieved the state of an enlightened being. There are in fact 24 of these Tirthankaras, and the word Tirthankara means fort builder, or saints connected to the Jain religion. HPB, in Isis Unveiled, relates these to the 35 Buddhas of confession and shows them to be identical. There are 11 of these Buddhas relating to the Atlantean age and 24 of the Aryan. Gautama Buddha was a contemporary of the great Jain sage known as Mahavira, who was said to be, or hinted to be, his teacher. Gautama Buddha is regarded in many teachings as being the last of these Tirthankaras. Again, an interesting fact. The whole subject is very interesting. So let's have a look at Jainism in more detail. So let's start by looking at the life of Mahavira. He is popularly looked upon as the 24th and the last Tirthankara. As said, he was a contemporary of Gautama Buddha, born around 599 BC. His actual name was Vardhamana, and he was born in the village of Kundagrama in the kingdom of Vaishala in India. His father Siddhartha was of the Kshatriya or warrior caste, and his mother was named Trishala. Before Vardhamana was born, his mother had 14 dreams of a white elephant, a snowy bull and a lion, Shri, the goddess of good fortune, garlands of heavenly flowers, full moon and the rising sun, a victory flag, a golden vase filled with holy water, a lake filled with lotus blossoms, an ocean of milk and a celestial abode, a hill of jewels and a blazing fire, which signified to seers that he would be a great king or a holy man, just the same as with Gautama Buddha, and in some things to Jesus as well. Another tradition tells how Vardhamana was originally conceived by Rishabhadatta and Devananda, and that Shakra, the king of the gods, transferred the embryo into the womb of Trishala, and that later in his life Mahavira recognised his true mother as being Devananda. Even as a child in Trishala's womb, Vadamana practiced non-violence, or ahimsa, by remaining perfectly still so as to cause his mother no discomfort. But when she worried that he might be dead, he moved slightly to reassure her. I'm sure that the mothers in the audience, or watching this, can relate to this, and even to the rest of us, which is a great lesson in ahimsa, or non-violence. So he was brought up as a prince like Gautama Buddha, and also, like the Buddha, he renounced his estate at the age of 30. One sect of Jainas believe that he remained a celibate all his life, whilst another say that he married a princess named Yashoda and had a daughter named Priya Dashana. Anyway, whatever the case, all sects believe that he left his life of luxury to meditate under an Ashoka tree. Again, similar to Buddha under the Bodhi tree. He continued his austerities for 12 years. In his 13th year, he reached enlightenment. Infinite, supreme, unobstructed, unimpeded, complete and full knowledge. Kevala Gnana, omniscience. He became a Kevalin, omniscient one, and after his initiation, he was named Mahavira, which means great hero. Mahavira then assumed the lotus posture, and his purified body became radiant and pellucid as crystal. Mahavira did not teach using words, but his whole being gave off a divine sound, or divya devani, divya devai, which at first only gods could understand. But 66 days later, a Brahmin came along who was enlightened by the very presence of Mahavira, and soon this Brahmin's 2 brothers and 8 other Brahmins joined him, and these 11 wrote down what the divine sound conveyed to them, and the Jain order was founded. So Mahavira is said to have entered Nirvana at the age of 72 in 527 BC and brought the lineage of Tirthankaras to an end, though a new cycle is said due to begin in 84,000 years' time. Again, 84,000 is a very important number in Buddhism and other religions. So anyway, put that in your diary. 84,000 years. Nowadays, there are said to be about 4 million followers of Jainism worldwide, compared to about 745 million Hindus, 350 million Buddhists, 1,000 million Muslims, and 2,000 million Christians. So the number of Jain followers are low in comparison to other religions, but it is very influential all the same. There are 2 main sects of Jainism, the Digambara, or sky-clad, who believe that a monk should give up all possessions, including clothes. And so they go about naked and carry a peacock feather, which they use to sweep insects from their path. And one of the reasons that they do not wear clothes is because they believe that washing them would cause danger to the small lives that are in the rivers, etc. The other sect is the Svetambara, who dress in white robes, wear masks over their faces to avoid breathing in small lives. In this sect, female followers are allowed. In 1975, both sects of the Jainas accepted the symbol that they use now, and no expense has been spared to bring you this symbol. And there you are. Nothing like improvising. It was created to mark the 2500th anniversary of Mahavira's Nirvana. The hand shows a representation of this symbol. It shows the sign of ahimsa, or non-violence, at the centre, and the swastika represents the four destinies. As the swastika has sinister associations nowadays, let's look at what HPB said about it in the Theosophical glossary, as it is also used on the Theosophical symbol. In popular notions, it is the Jain cross, or the four-footed cross. In esoteric philosophy, the most mystic and ancient diagram. It is the originator of the fire by friction and the 49 fires. Its symbol was stamped on Buddha's heart and therefore called the heart's seal. It is laid on the breasts of departed initiates after their death, and it is mentioned with the greatest respect in the Ramayana. Engraved on every rock temple and prehistoric building in India and wherever Buddhists have left their landmarks, it is also found in China, Tibet and Siam, and amongst the ancient Germanic nations as Thor's hammer. As described by Eitel in his Handbook of Chinese Buddhism, 1. It is found among Bonpas and Buddhists. 2. It is one of the 65 figures of the Shripada. 3. It is a symbol of esoteric Buddhism. 4. The special mark of all deities worshipped by the Lotus School of China. Finally, and in occultism, it is as sacred to us as the Pythagorean Tetrakis, of which it is indeed the double symbol. So, interesting. It is as sacred to us as the Pythagorean Tetrakis, of which it is indeed the double symbol. So we can see that it is a long way from the symbols associated with the Nazi Party, who reversed it for their own purposes. It is interesting that the Jains used it as recently as 1975, but as Theosophy did with a few things, like the word Lucifer, for example, which means light bringer, but was twisted by Christian fanatics to mean the devil, they must have thought it was the right thing to restore it to its original glory, and not to give in just to a few fanatics. The meanings that I quoted above have been used for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years, and should not be just gotten rid of on a whim, and for something that happened over a short period by people who were evil-minded. So the three dots at the top represent the threefold path of thought, word and deed. And the crescent and dot at the top are symbols of the realm of emancipated beings. The overall shape represents the manifested universe. Just give you a couple of minutes to look at that before I download it onto the floor. Yeah. So it's a very interesting symbol. A very beautiful symbol, actually. A very lovely symbol. So let's not let people who've degraded sacred symbols win by getting rid of them, even though they may have terrible associations for certain people. Because, as I said before, that the symbol of the swastika was used for thousands of years before the Nazis came along. So you don't just get rid of ancient symbols like that have been there for thousands and regarded that as being very, very sacred. You don't just get rid of them. So just a couple of minutes just to meditate on that and look at it. Have a quiet few minutes. Let's have a meditation break. Breathe out and let's have a quiet moment. Right, I'll download this now. Woo. There it goes. There it goes. So the overall shape, as I said, represents the manifested universe. Let's then have a look at this universe and some of the more basic teachings of the Jains. The universe in Jain philosophy is known as the Loka Akasha, or realm of Akasha, and this is pregnant with meaning for Theosophical students. HPB describes Akasha as the primordial substance and as the universal space from which all manifests. In Jain philosophy, this Loka Akasha is divided into 3 levels. The lowest is Hardoloka, the realm of inferior beings and the lower order of gods. This lowest realm is further divided into 7 realms, progressing from dark to light as they move upwards. Again, Theosophy, the seven levels, 7 principles, 7 rounds and races. The highest realm is Urdhvaloka, which consists of 30 celestial realms where dwell the gods and pure beings. But even these must seek human birth to gain enlightenment. The middle world is where we are, Madhya Loka, the middle world, the abode of humans and animals. In the centre of this world is the island continent of Jambudvipa, which consists of 7 continents, of which only 2.5 are active. The rest are in a state where it is impossible to gain enlightenment. This continent is also used in Buddhist teaching. I came across it in the Lotus Sutra, again showing the link between the two, although the outer teachings differ somewhat. So the active realms of Jambudvipa are subject to a cycle of inbreathing and outbreathing. Anyone who knows anything about Theosophy will know that it is very much based upon the teaching of cycles. Also in meditation we are told to watch the breath. In relaxation methods, this is simply to calm the mind. But if we look deeper, we can see that the out-breath represents the universe, or the individual, or whatever we want to look at it as, coming into being. The in-breathing is a return to the source, and the spaces between the breaths are the pralayas, or periods of rest. If we truly learn to meditate upon the breath, then the secrets of the universe are in our reach. This idea can be experienced and meditated upon when we count the breath. The idea of the flow and the balance of the universal process is experienced in this. But this is an idea you can work on when you do your homework. In the Jain religion, the out-breath has 6 phases, from extreme misery to extreme joy. And in the in-breath, 6 stages from extreme joy to extreme misery. Let's experience this now. As we breathe in through the nostrils, feel the progression from light to dark in 6 phases. Presumably, the 7th is the essence of them all, preserved in pralaya, or the space between the breath. So hold this for a few seconds and then breathe out, feeling the gradual progression from dark to light. Do this a couple of more times and then breathe naturally. This is the real way to learn about spiritual things. Observe oneself and nature. Now about the middle of this dual cycle, light and dark are balanced, just as they are at the spring and autumn equinoxes. And it is only during this time of balance that a Tirthankara, or holy man or woman, can appear. In the same way, It is only when the energies are balanced within us that we are ripe for enlightenment. It is essential to learn by observing ourselves and nature. A quote much used by me nowadays is from The Secret Doctrine, Volume 2, by page 797, where HPB says that no human doctrine, nor creed, however sanctified by custom and antiquity, can compare in sacredness with the religion of nature. The key of wisdom that unlocks the massive gates leading to the arcana of the innermost sanctuaries can be found in her bosom only. That's very interesting. No human doctrine, no creed, however sanctified by custom and antiquity, can compare in sacredness with the religion of nature. The key of wisdom that unlocks the massive gates leading to the arcana of the innermost sanctuaries can be found hidden in her bosom only. Just think about that. Let's just relax and let it sink in. And she says, and she uses the word only. Notice how she uses that word only. I don't believe that HPB and the Masters use words carelessly, so we have to look at that statement that the key of wisdom can be found in her bosom only. Again, that is something for you to think about, meditate upon and look into. More homework. So, as the Secret Doctrine tells us, we have to proceed by self-induced and self-devised methods or efforts. There are no rules really, but religions have created some, so we have to take them in hand, and they are useful for the general populace. But when we have learned to think for ourselves, we start to progress by these self-induced and self-devised methods, which have nothing to do with external rules or regulations. Also, the meditation I used was for the purpose of this talk only, and it's up to you whether you follow it in your day-to-day life. Now, Jains believe that once we reach the human stage, we can strive for enlightenment. But they do not have any strict teachings of evolution. Also, their ideas of reincarnation differ from the Theosophical ones. And like the exoteric Buddhists and Hindus, accept that we can be reborn into animals. Whether the esoteric side of Jainism believes this, I don't know, probably not. And this is one of the teachings that Theosophy came to clear up. And of course we are told that once the human stage is reached, there is no going back. There is a teaching regarding the transmigration of the physical atoms into animal forms, but not the reincarnating ego, which is beyond all that. Perhaps the more esoteric side of the Jain teaching, as we do, as I said. But I've not come across this as yet. Though I believe it must exist somewhere. Also, there is no available teaching on the post-mortem states, and rebirth can be instantaneous. Again, this differs from Theosophy and the Buddhists and Hindus, who have detailed expositions of these states. Also, their idea of karma is different. Theosophy and even the Hindu and Buddhist philosophies teach that karma is a principle or law of cause and effect that is operative in the physical, mental, moral and spiritual realms of being. As we sow, so shall we reap. The Bible tells us, as the Bible tells us. In the Jain philosophy, however, karma is a definite material substance which clogs the soul. It is attracted almost magnetically by our actions and is formed by our erroneous thoughts and various forms of desire, like frustration, deceit, pride and greed, and binds the soul in 8 ways, which are the 8 kinds of karma. These are represented by definite Sanskrit words. I tried to avoid using these words so as not to make it even more involved, but found that they were necessary to get the point across. And Forgive me for my pronunciation. Gnana Varaniya, the blocking of knowledge. Darshana Varaniya, the obscuration of insight. Mohinya, delusion of affection and passion. Vedaniya, the origin of pleasure and pain. Ayuksha, which sets the length of any particular life. Nama, the cause of everything associated with the personality. Gotra, or Gotra, determines social status at birth. Anta Raya, limits the cultivation of virtue and soul powers. So these are the 8 kinds of karma. Not very easy to take in and understand. So all this karma creates a karma sharira, or body of karma, which, as said, surround the soul, and it holds it down in the lower realms of being. It is only when we live the correct life and dissolve the karmic body that we drift upwards to the higher realms, where enlightenment is reached. Samsara, or the wheel of birth and death, is caused by the involvement of the soul or jiva in all those things that are opposed to it in the realm of ajiva, or non-soul. It is polluted by all these things and accumulates karma as mentioned above. Therefore, purification is the way to go in this. There are 14 stages to this purification, and I've tried to avoid using too many Sanskrit words again, but some are necessary. As said, when a balance is struck, the soul is ready for emancipation or freedom. In the soul, according to Jainism, there is a remarkable quality which is named bhavyatva, or the capability to become free. All beings possess this, but in most it is smothered by the dust of karma. When the right balance is reached, it can be put into use by the individual. When this individual has a great urge to become enlightened, they have a momentary vision of reality, which fires this longing, and they have a clear vision of the original nature. But eventually the weight of karma drags them back down. However, this feeling is not lost, and it inspires them. It reminds me somewhat of a section from The Light on the Path by Mabel Collins. And in the deep silence, the mysterious event will occur, which will prove that the way has been found. Call it by what name you will, it is a voice which speaks where there is none to speak. It is a messenger that comes, a messenger without form or substance. It is the flower of the soul that has opened. It cannot be described by any metaphor, but it can be felt after, looked for and desired, even amid the raging of the storm. This silence may last a moment of time, or it may last 1,000 years, but it will end. Yet you will carry its strength with you. Again and again the battle must be fought and won. Lovely, lovely words. So this may not be exactly the same, but it is similar. Perhaps it is identical as the experience of all the mystics, because the experiences of all the mystics are the same in essence, but they are just polluted by the intellect and by religious conditioning, etc. So this is the first stage, and he learns to focus on the divinity within, and also to identify with his fellow human beings, experience oneness with them. He moves through 2 more stages and then regains the clear vision he lost when he reaches the 4th. The aspirant must now take 5 vows, which are almost identical with the vows taken in Buddhism, which is not surprising given the link between the 2. They are also found, of course, in different forms in other traditions. They are Hahim, Savratra, the vow of non-injury, Satya Vrata, the vow of truth, which manifests in the outer world as speaking truthfully, Asteya Vratra, the vow of non-stealing on all levels, Brahma Vatra, the vow to refrain from illicit sexual activity, and aparigraha vrata, the vow to limit one's possessions. Again, sorry about the pronunciations. Ahimsa vrata, Satya vrata, Asteya vrata, Brahma vrata, and aparigraha vrata. So the vow of non-injury, the vow of truth, the vow of non-stealing on all levels, the vow to refrain from illicit sexual activity, and the vow to limit one's possessions. Then there are 3 more vows taken to strengthen these. Limiting the geographical area of one's activities, limiting the objects of enjoyment, renouncing the frivolous and unnecessary attitudes. Sounds rather heavy. Then there are 4 vows of purely spiritual discipline. Seeking even mindfulness through meditation, further limitation of one's unnecessary activities, fasting on prescribed holy days, and there is a vow to fast for extended periods of time. Well, this is not forced upon laymen. Following these vows with seriousness allows the aspirant to reach the 5th stage. At the 6th stage, the student renounces the world and becomes a monk, as that is the natural progression. Here he reinforces his vows, and in the 7th stage eliminates carelessness, another barrier. I take this to mean not caring for others, perhaps, as well as just ordinary carelessness. In the 8th, 9th and 10th stages, he is busy eliminating subtle passions. He then goes on to the 11th stage, which is an unstable level, which seems to be a sort of testing ground. For if the aspirant has only suppressed passions and not eliminated them, he will fall down to some lower level. I'll just get a drink. So if he's not succeeded in his efforts, he'll fall down to some lower level. But if he has succeeded in his efforts, he will move on to the 12th level, from which there is no return. When he or she reaches the 14th level, they leave behind the material universe and enters the Siddhaloka, the realm of the holy ones. Now, all of this may sound somewhat selfish, but on the journey the aspirant is guided by an increasing awareness of ahimsa, or non-violence to all things. As in Buddhism, this is the student's increasing inspiration. We can see by this, by looking at the rules we've gone into up to now. Certainly, if we could be motivated by the same desire, the world would be a much better place. And obviously these rules and regulations are for those who are very serious, because the Jain religion is a very strict religion. The followers follow very strict discipline. It's not for everybody, obviously. It's just for people who are born into that particular culture and choose that particular life. That's why it's never really taken off in the West. I know I did visit one. I think it was in Leicester. They have a Jain temple, which is very interesting. Gets a chance to go there. Yeah, so it would be a better world if people could be motivated by the same desire, maybe not following these strict rules, but the same desire to promote peace and love and harmony. I'm reminded of a sentence from the Masters quoted by H.P. Blavatsky in 5 Messages to the American Conventions, where they say, "O men of the West, who would play at being the saviours of mankind before they even spur the life of a mosquito whose sting threatens them. Would ye be partakers of divine wisdom or true Theosophists? Then do as the gods when incarnated do. Feel yourself the vehicles of the whole humanity, mankind as part of yourselves, and act accordingly. O men of the West, I repeat, who would play at being the saviours of mankind before they even spur the life of a mosquito whose sting threatens them? Would ye be partakers of divine wisdom or true theosophists? Then do as the gods when incarnated do. Feel yourselves the vehicles of the whole humanity, mankind as part of yourselves, and act accordingly. There again is the whole of the path in a nutshell. If we accept that there is just one life force throughout the universe, shared equally amongst all beings, but manifesting more and more as the vehicle and of its expression becomes more and more refined, then we can understand that we are all one, and that what we do to the smallest thing affects the whole. Our whole lives should be helpful to each other and to the lower kingdoms of nature. This is the great lesson that the Jain religion can teach us in our quest, to reaffirm this vow of brotherhood and to understand it at its deepest level. This is the great idea that we can get from our studies and our meditations. They all have something that can help us in our quest to realise our true selves and the self of all beings. Even if we are not in tune with most of the ideas, we can still use our intuitions to extract the things that are useful. That's the very good thing about studying the teachings of H.P. Blavatsky and the Masters and W.Q. Judge and others, that we learn to discriminate. Because obviously in the modern world, HPB said that there are more theosophists outside of society than in it. And we have to not just read books published by the Theosophical movement in general, but also look for the truth in other books. And we should have the discrimination, if we know of theosophy, to know which are true and which aren't, and separate the wheat from the chaff. This is what the path is all about, using our intelligence in the true sense of the word and progressing, as I have said once or twice, by self-induced and self-devised efforts. So theosophy helps to give us this insight into other beliefs, and it is essential that we study other religions, read other scriptures, otherwise we'll fall into a sectarian state of mind, even as regards theosophy. Because as in all religions, the truth is beyond the written word. Theosophy gave out to the public much more than had been given out before, and much of the teaching is very unique at the moment. But regarding the ethics, they can be found in all the world's religions. We can use our intuitions to extract the essence of these and use them in our daily lives intelligently and wisely, without having to give our minds to a person or the written word or to any system of belief. The important thing is to awaken to the original mind, the pure mind, to see that all beings have the same spiritual nature at their base and the same potential as we do, and to dovetail all our thoughts, feelings and actions to an appreciation of this fact in nature. The one unpardonable sin is to deny this spirituality in ourselves and in others. So let's not do that, but instead learn the true meaning of our first object, a universal brotherhood of humanity, regardless of race, creed, sex, caste and colour. So thank you for to me that's the main lesson we have to learn. Thank you for listening to this. I know that the Jain concepts are very complex, and that's probably why they're not talked about very much in theosophy, and they seem, in some ways they seem very strict. But of course, like as I've said before, this is because the people of Jain religion do live a very strict life. It's not for everyone, but we can certainly learn something from the essence of what they taught, from the essential. It's like other religions. All religions exoterically seem to be very, very strict at times. Even Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and the exoteric rules and regulations can be very strict and very difficult for us to to follow. But this is again because of the because they're anthropomorphized and and people have devised rules and regulations that we have to follow, or the ordinary followers have to live by. Whereas if you look at the esoteric side of it, it's much different. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. It's been a bit different. So I think we'll just finish with a little meditation, and then I'll blow out the candle of harmony. And that's that. Until next time. So just breathe out any tension again. Remember, tuning the breath, tuning the mind and breath. It's raining very heavy outside. I don't know if you can hear it on the... Well, probably not. Rain. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. I now blow out the candle of harmony. See you next time.